so f***ing kawaii.
止められない時のように降り続く雨視界を遮るからもう何も見えないそれでも今進むなら鼓動を止めて毅然と呼べばいいだろう雲も立つ光その意味を知ろう
Hey everybody, it's your girl. I've got a special video for you today. We're going to be talking about Touken Ranbu, and more specifically, the training equipment order card. Now, talking to my local scene, this card causes a lot of confusion and ruffled brows, so I thought maybe a helpful video that breaks it down, what it does effectively in addition to literally, and some common ruling questions you might run into would be nice. I want to open, though, by talking about the reason and thematics behind the card. I've got a number of players who have never heard of Touken Ranbu before now, and what's going on with the card is simpler to understand once you realize the intent behind it. In Touken Ranbu, the browser game that at least 7 of you didn't know existed until just now, the players are able to upgrade their Touken Danshi, sword boys, by putting them through training so they can become stronger and ascend to more powerful forms. Thinking of training as turning a boy into the cooler version of himself. The Kiwame form cards are them in those cooler forms. Along with emulating the training mechanic from the game, the mechanics behind this order are also there to facilitate letting Touken Ranbu superfans have their best boy hit center stage, no matter who he may be. Unless he's one of these 33 boys who don't have a Kiwame form. Sorry everybody. Better luck next time, Odenta fans. So with that in mind, I'm going to read the card verbatim, then we'll break down what that all actually means in terms of gameplay. So, training equipment. You can have a total of 5 cards in your ride deck, made up of this card, a unit card without Kiwame in its card name, and 1 unit card of every grade from grade 0 to grade 2, and put this card face up. Auto, ride deck. When you stand up, put this card into the order zone, choose a unit card without Kiwame in its card name from the ride deck, put it into the order zone face up, and it conducts training. Continuous, order zone. Your Vanguard loses all of its auto abilities and act abilities. Continuous, order zone. You cannot normal ride from hand. When you would ride from the ride deck, you can ride without discarding a card from hand. And lastly, act order zone. If your ride deck has no cards, and you did not ride this turn, cost, put a card conducting training into soul, search your deck or hand for up to 1 card with both the card name of the card put into the soul and Kiwame in its card name, write it as stand, and if you search the deck, shuffle the deck. If you wrote a card, put this card into your soul, and you get a crest corresponding to your Vanguard's race. I'll cover that first part about ride deck size and the rulings part later. For now, let's talk about the real effects here. First off, can I just say that I love cards with the check timing of when you stand up? The only other example I can think of is the Golden Egg starter for Monster Strike, but this one might still be even more unique in terms of execution. Also, we didn't get Monster Strike over here, so it's the only English format card I can think of with that check timing. Anyway, at the start of the game, even if your opponent went first, you are going to place training equipment in your order zone, select a non-Kiwame unit from the ride deck, and place him in the order zone in training. Don't get hung up on the wording there. In training really doesn't mean anything other than he's in the order zone. I also really need to stress that your non-Kiwame boy can be any grade. I repeat, he can be any grade. Can be any boy, as long as he has a Kiwame form for you to put in the main deck for him to train into. In regards to the your Vanguard loses all of its auto abilities and act abilities, keep in mind this refers to all your Vanguards at all grades. Any pre-existing Vanguard rideline skills are gone. Your grade 0 doesn't even draw you a card for going second. Something really important to remember so you don't just draw going second out of habit. In exchange, though, you never have to discard to ride, and frankly, technically plussing at all stages of riding is a pretty sweet bonus in its own right, so you're not necessarily missing out on much here. Now the payoff. When you would ride to grade 3, you don't have any cards left in your ride deck. This triggers training equipment's final skill, which signifies your boy's training is complete. push both training equipment and the non-Kiwame boy into the soul, search your deck or hand for a unit with the same name as the boy who's in training plus Kiwame, and ride him as stand. Then you gain a crest that corresponds to your boy's race, sword type. That's the extent of what training equipment itself does, but there is still some incredibly important effects attached to the crest it just gave you, chief of which is that every crest has the same first two effects. You cannot ride a unit with different card names from your Vanguard, and all of the cards with the same card name as your Vanguard become grade 3, power 13,000, critical 1 units with twin drive, persona ride, and all of the following. Note, they lose all of their original power, shield, and abilities. The first one's just like the stride crests, so I feel like we all understand that part well enough already, along with it being pretty simple. The second skill is the important one. It effectively turns every copy of whichever Kiwame boy you rode, no matter where they exist, field, hand, deck, drop, damage, bind, etc., into a 13k vanilla grade 3 with all the stuff any average grade 3 has. But the crest then confers new skills unto them that make them into a proper Vanguard. This is why the grade of your non-Kiwame in training boy doesn't matter. He's just going to get modified into a G3 by the crest anyway. Printed skills out, crest skills in. Like I said, the point of the mechanic is to allow you to play your best boy, no matter who he is, mostly. So dang it, we're going to use convoluted mechanics to make that happen. From that point on, just treat your trained up, cooler version of your boy as you would any other grade 3 deck boss card. His skills just happen to be printed on a different card that technically exists outside of the game board. So to recap, pick a favorite boy, put him into training while you ride for free from grade 0 to 2. When it's time to ride grade 3, take the boy and his training equipment, push them into soul, bust out his awesome new form, complete with cool skill-giving crest. Once you understand the goal and intent, it's actually pretty simple. As far as those crests go, there are 7 different ones to match the 7 different main sword types. I'll post them up on screen now, so feel free to pause and give them a look or read where I'll have them in the video description below. I'm not going to go over them in detail because I'm really just here to clear up the actual training process today. And before anyone tries to gotcha me, I said 7 main sword types for a reason. There is no crest for Tsurugi swords, which is irrelevant, because the 2 boys who are Tsurugis, A, don't have Kiwame forms, and B, you'd have to be mad to make either one your in-training unit in the first place. Why, you may ask? Well, that's a great segue into the ruling segment. I mentioned at the beginning that Training Tools mentions increasing your ride deck size, but it's important to remember that we got Touken Ranbu Set 2 long after Japan did. And we got Divines only slightly after them. So this card was originally printed before the Energy Crest was a thing. So yes, Touken Ranbu decks still get an Energy Crest. Think of its wording as more saying your ride deck gets an extra slot to accommodate the order. Also, quick note, this was something even I'd been messing up in my games for a minute. Training Tools instructs you to put it face up in the ride deck. So yes, this means your opponent will always know at round start that you're playing a Touken Ranbu Crest deck, and could technically call you on concealing public information by starting it face down in the ride deck. It's not a biggie, I just don't want any of my fellow sword boy lovers getting sharked by players with bad intentions. So, what happens if I make my in-training boy a trigger or sentinel? Well, you'd have to be pretty ballsy and possibly mad to do something like that. Can't imagine what would possess anyone to make a trigger their training boy. Like, come on, that's obviously just silly, no matter how you look at it. I pity the poor fool who would even try that. Look, Dragon Tree taught us that deck building limits apply even if they're in your ride deck. So if your best boy is a trigger, your main deck will only have 15 triggers in it. Yes, it would still be 50 cards. I guess enjoy that one other flex spot you just got. And if you really need to make Ima no Tsurugi your Vanguard, deal with only having 3 Sentinels in your deck. I'm going to future-proof this. Yes, Blankmeyer will rob your boy of his skills. The crest confers the skills to him. So if his skills get negated, he will not have the skills the crest gave him. He will still be a grade 3 with twin drive and 13k power. That part is being controlled by the crest itself. It is not being conferred to your Vanguard or you. Blangdmeyer does not rob your boy of his grade 3 status. What if all the copies of the Kiwame version of my boy are in damage drop and or bind when I would ride to grade 3 and complete training? Scoop? But in all seriousness, the Order has a cost for the active ending training. So if you know that you don't have access to a Kiwame version of your boy, you don't have to end training yet. You can leave him in the Order Zone until you're able to use Forge to recycle a copy into deck, I guess? But this is such an insane outlier situation, I don't think you have to worry. Can I still use copies of my Kiwame boy as he is printed before I ride to grade 3? So yeah, if the Kiwame version of your boy is a grade 0, 1, or 2, and he's got skills or shields you want to make use of, as long as you don't have the crest yet, you're still able to use him exactly as he is printed. So if you're still at grade 2, and you did choose Ima no Tsurugi, like we talked about earlier, and you really want to make use of his Kiwame forms plus 5k to Vanguard skill, or his retire to countercharge skill, by all means. He's about to lose those skills anyway. Do keep in mind, though, that you're effectively calling your Persona Ride copies, and they will transform into their grade 3 self on field as soon as the crest appears. Those are the main ruling questions I can think of that may come up. If you think of any others, please feel free to comment below. I hope this video taught you something useful, or prepared you for fighting sword boys in your locals or at your next event. But most of all, I hope it maybe stirred interest in you in this absolutely wonderful nation full of wonderful and attractive anthropomorphizations of famous swords. I'm going to keep flying the Touken Ranbu banner. And hey, if the card forms of these boys caught your eye, maybe consider giving one of the anime adaptations or the original browser game itself a look. Until next time, bye-bye!
出会ったうつつでそれぞれ